Hey, it's me, Rob Ryan. I am back with another episode of Entrepreneurial Thinkers. Wow. We talk a lot in developing markets. We talk a lot about democratizing access to things, to services, to products, to care, or especially in this high tech, fintechy world that we live in lately. We talk a lot about democratizing access to banking or capital or credit. And I got to tell you, over the last 10 years working across Latin America, but also just being a general studier of the entrepreneurial ecosystems on a global basis. Very, very few companies deliver on that wildly big aspirational promise. The conversation I got to have today with Gabby Estrada from Vexi, VEXI in Mexico, a credit finance company that is partnered with American Express and is delivering true democratized access to credit to people in the majority, the 70th percentile part of the economy in Mexico that normally have not historically had access to or used credit cards. This was an incredible conversation. I learned a ton today, and I know you will as well. And also, if you are an entrepreneur or an entrepreneurial thinker inside of big institutions and big organizations, I think you'll draw some inspiration from Gabby's own story. We talk about how she went from corporate Gabriela to startup Gabby, but a deeply experienced, very humble, thoughtful, confident woman. So I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as we did making it for you.
We are so grateful to be supported by these community champions: Sales MD, Team Friday, Realist Lab, Kiana Patterson, Diego Chavez, Jer Boucher, Heather Ryder, Janine Sua, Lily Roca, and Steve Kernan.
Hola, hello, hi, welcome back or welcome to Entrepreneurial Thinkers. This is the show where I get to have weekly conversations with the best and brightest entrepreneurial thinkers across all sectors and segments of society and industry as we come together, as Gabby Estrada and I are going to do today, as to try to leave the world a little bit better than we found it. Today, I'm super excited to be joined by Gabriela Estrada, the CEO and co-founder of Vexi. That's VEXI from Mexico. Let me tell you a little bit about her before we jump in and meet her, and then we start to unpack this world of fintech, finance, and credit that they are democratizing truly in the truest competitive sense of the word. So Gabby is not just breaking the rules of the financial world. She and her team are rewriting the whole rule book, building this fast burn kind of hype cycle era of move fast and break things that you blitzscaled. Gabby and her partner Cynthia have actually built Vexi to both deeply serve an underserved audience of human beings and actually build a capital efficient, smart company that takes its opportunity very seriously. From Citibanamex boardrooms to building one of Mexico's most exciting young fintech companies, Gabrielle is proving that access to credit can and should be reimagined for all people everywhere. She's an Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year and an E100 leader, and she's now not just changing how we think about money, but she's changing who gets to dream bigger with it. This conversation is going to go beyond the numbers of startup life and straight into the true entrepreneurial thinking behind what's possible when you lead with purpose and heart in a high stakes world of finance and banking. Gabby, welcome to Entrepreneurial Thinkers. It's great to share this conversation with you.
Thank you, Rob, and awesome, and really excited to be here to chat with you, to share a little bit of our story with you and your audience. Super excited.
Super grateful. And as folks who know us may know or may not know, this is actually a mutual introduction by a good friend and another former alumnus of the show, Alejandro Gonzalez from Redwood Ventures in Guadalajara. Alejandro and I were talking a couple weeks ago, and I said, I want to know who are the most entrepreneurial thinking entrepreneurs and founders you have in your portfolio. Who are the next couple of people that I should talk to in Mexico? And he immediately said, you've got to talk to this woman, Gabby Estrada. And boom, a couple days later, there was the WhatsApp introduction, and here we are today to have this conversation. So super excited for you. We're going to jump right into it, though. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about big banks. We're going to talk about startup banks. We're going to talk about access to credit. And eventually, we're going to dig into why this is all so important, really, because I feel like that's the driver behind you and Cynthia and what you're doing with Vexi is the fact that this is really, really important. We're going to get to that. But first things first, I'm curious, just as an outsider, like you worked inside the big banks, right? I said you were in the boardrooms at Citibanamex. Why don't the big banks deliver what Vexi does to this massive market segment? Help us understand that.
Yeah, Robin, that's a really important question. I guess the basics is banks in Mexico doesn't really have the correct motivations or risk appetite to really go and serve a larger portion of the population. Most of the most profitable branches of the largest financial institutions globally, like Citi, BBVA, Santander, their largest and most profitable branches are in Mexico. So they are already doing hundreds of millions of dollars in profits, and they don't really have this motivation to go deeper or serve a broader portion of the population because they are already doing a lot of money with 25% of the population they are serving right now. So one of them is risk appetite. The other has to be with legacy systems. Most of the original or the platforms, the technology platforms these banks run on are from the 90s. So they are really old technology, really hard and really expensive to adapt to digital products. And also, I guess the bureaucracy and the way of thinking of banks is really hard for them to serve a larger portion of the population or digitally native. And it's really hard for them to adapt to the new needs of the financial services the young people is asking for. And last but not least, I guess it's also because of costs. So for any of these big banks to cover their technology, their local, regional, global teams, their compliance, because they are really heavy on compliance, their credit lines need to be of certain level, that level normally it's above the payday check, the monthly income of 70% of the population in Mexico. So boom, they just take out the majority of the really hardworking people here in Mexico that might be living in the formal economy, but they just cannot go and cover those requirements that the banks have here for serving a different set of customers.
I mean, at one level, it just sounds like a business decision, right? It just, hey, we're already successful at what we do, and so why should we try to do more? But the unfortunate part, which I think we're going to get to here in a little bit, right? The unfortunate part about that business decision is then by default, they are excluding another huge market for themselves that eventually, if they figured it out, they could be wildly successful at, and it would just make them even more profitable. Right.
Exactly.
And obviously then they're missing out on the opportunity to help stimulate the economy as a whole.
Exactly.
Right, which we're going to talk a whole bunch about that. So, I'm curious. So we just juxtaposed you kind of against the big banks. Now let's kind of compare and contrast against the other startup banks, right? So, there might be one famous kind of purple startup bank out there in Mexico and Latin America that we all know. But like, and everybody says we're going to democratize access to X or Y, right? Whatever it is. If you're a startup founder, I think that's like on the startup packet is like, hey, on day one, you're supposed to say you're going to democratize access to everything, right? Especially in Latin America. But there's something about what Vexi is doing in executing on your business plan that truly is democratizing access to credit, financing, and banking for a massive part of the population. And so I'm curious if there are some kind of hints, and we're going to get into all of the deep story in a bit, but if there are a couple clues that say, like, we think we're able to do this better, or we're actually able to do it, versus how or why some other people say they're going to do it in their marketing material, but then they don't really do it.
Yes, and I guess with all the different offering and credit card offerings that we might find out there in Mexico, 65% of Vexi's customers are first-time credit card users. So that's a whole proof of what we're doing. And I guess it's because we really didn't started with a product. We started with a problem that me and my co-founders, we knew very deeply. And we understand how broken was like the credit system in our country, especially for young people and those that didn't have previous credit history. So instead of just building a really pretty or nice app, we built a great model. We built all this technology needed. We built a right or the correct customer journey that actually work for them, that it's fair, that it's transparent, that it's digital, that it's flexible, and that includes lots of financial education. So we didn't chase growth at all cost. We build trust first and then we scale. So it's a huge different way of doing business or building a startup.
I was going to say significantly different.
Yes.
Right. And I would imagine a lot of that, kind of what informed that, came from your own practical experiences in your prior career inside of big banks.
Yes, and I guess that's part of the Vexi's story, and me and my co-founders Cynthia and Gustavo and Salvador and Carlos will come from middle-class families. We studied in public schools. We worked really hard to get scholarships to go to private universities. And then we get to work in several corporate jobs, me and Gustavo on the banking industry. And when I applied for my first credit card a bunch of years ago at Citi, I got rejected. And for me, that was like the wake-up call that something was really broken. And that was actually the reality for hundreds of millions of people out there.
For most.
Yeah. So Gustavo, one of my co-founders, he spent a decade in credit cards in Citibanamex, and he told me, like, we reject a couple of million people every year. So multiply that for the whole industry and imagine the size of the problem that there is out there. So for us there's a huge, immense problem, but there is also a huge opportunity for us to change the reality of the Mexican population with our experience, with our real down-to-earth experience of how the things were broken. That's why we truly knew how to fix them. So it was quite different than really just building a cool app and raising lots of millions of dollars and just throwing them into the market.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love that it was, as I said, your professional background, but it's really as much your personal backgrounds
exactly
that informed the choices that you made. And then I'll just say this on your behalf, like thankfully to the industry, the entrepreneurship gods in Mexico, that you didn't get distracted by a bunch of people trying to tell you, this is the way you have to do it. And you have to do it this way. And you have to do, like, you and your team kind of stuck your head down and said, this is the way we're going to do it. And you almost didn't know better to do it another way.
Yeah. And there were a lot of people telling us the contrary. So they were telling us that we were crazy, that we couldn't issue credit cards because we were not a bank at the beginning. Then there were others that were telling us, I don't know, 7 years ago, that the credit card market was already really crowded. And we were like, hey, we are alone over here. There's nobody but the banks. So people think they know better, but they don't really have the experience and they haven't really lived the problem. So
yeah, and maybe that winds up being kind of the magical connection in this story, is that you and your team had the lived experience as consumers, as individuals, as well as then you had the professional experiences. And maybe the combination of those two profiles in the FinTech world just doesn't happen very often.
Exactly. Right? I guess we are the only Mexican team in the FinTech arena, especially in the neobank arena here in Mexico. The other day, there was a VC asking us if there was not enough Mexican talent because most of the neobanks were like from foreigners. And I was telling them like, oh, there's a lot of talent, but you guys are only betting on the foreigners. That's quite different.
Wow. Okay, yeah. Gabby, go Gabby. Wow, that's a good way to make sure that guy or woman doesn't invest in you, probably. But that's okay. But you're standing up for your principles. And
exactly.
And I'll tell you from the experience, you're speaking truth.
Exactly.
So, we are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Haney and Company. You know, we all know that in today's complex financial landscape, having a trusted advisor can make all the difference. Since 1960, Haney and Company has been providing comprehensive accounting services to a diverse range of clients, from small businesses to large corporations. With nearly 400 professionals across 13 locations, they offer services in tax, audit, business consulting, and client advisory. In fact, their commitment to excellence has earned them recognition from Accounting Today and Forbes magazines. At Haney and Company, though, it's not just about balancing books. It's about building lasting relationships based on trust and mutual growth. So visit HaneyCPAs.com. That's HaneyCPAs.com to learn how they can support your business's financial journey. Okay, I have a curious question. This is as much a personal kind of curiosity from my own life experiences and story, which I won't bore you with. But I know factually from kind of the inside side of this, like that the culture around money, and especially like in Latin America, but maybe especially the culture around money in Mexico compared to other Latin American countries, like it's very low trust. It's super suspicious of institutions like banks and government and frankly, and almost every institution, right? How have you managed as a company to connect with your users, with your customers, your clients, right? And forge the type of trusted relationships that people just historically don't have with anybody that tries to provide financial services?
That's a super good question, because that was something that we hit right at the beginning. The people were really suspicious, not about us, not about the institution per se. I guess they were suspicious about credit, right? Because many other lenders have been abusing about this vulnerability this sector and these segments in Mexico has, because they are not covered by the large institutions, so they are covered by predatory lenders, and they end up with really heavy burdens in terms of interest or in terms of very aggressive collections practices and all the stuff. So we had to understand their fears, understand their concerns, and build around it. So we knew we really had to be really clear. We have to be really transparent, because that's one of the things they claim the most, that the banks are not transparent, that they charge like fees or interest they don't understand. So we had to be really clear, really transparent. The app has to be really easy to use, and it has to have many financial like concepts embedded, so they can learn as they were touching. Because most of our customers, as I was telling you, 65% of them are first-time credit card users. So they don't really understand credit at the beginning of their journey with us. We have to spend the first 2 or 3 months really teaching them how to use their credit card. So we cannot go really big in credit lines at the beginning, because they don't really understand what they are doing. And we have to build like this gamified rules for them to understand right or correct or better financial behaviors, and then we start like building around it. So we have like this level gamified experience in Vexi. They are Vexi beginners. Then after a few months that they know how to manage better their credit card, they understood the card day, the payment day, and everything, how the interest works and everything. They can move up to advanced level, and they get better interest rates. They have better benefits and everything, and then can go up to champions. So we really have to build the different experience for our customers if we wanted to fight all that mistrust that there was in the market, not just in this segment, in the market.
And that's really the root of the question, right? It's not so much that they don't trust Vexi, they just don't trust anybody.
Exactly.
Mi ex esposa, my first wife, is from Mexico City, here in the U.S. And she went to university in the U.S. She we were living in the US, like when we were in our 20s. She had a great job in the US, and still she would go cash her paycheck and come home and take some of that money from her paycheck and put it under her mattress.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
was like, and this is 30,
Yeah.
33, 34, 5 years ago.
And I
Right.
guess that's still going on in Mexico.
Yeah. And
For
so,
sure.
like, I've known that culture of money thing in Mexico and in Latin America is it's a thing.
Yeah.
And so for any organization to come along and sort of pierce that level of mistrust is really impressive. I'll, having heard your answer prior, like, I'll attribute some of it back to just, you built, as you said, you didn't just raise money on an idea and then build a cool app. Like, you built a credit scoring system. You built models, and then you built a product and a service model and an educational model first,
Exactly.
to make sure that this was valuable to the first customer, and then the second one, and then the 10th one, and the 100th one. And then you made the app and the tools cooler and more technological, et cetera. And it's ironically innovative by being simple.
Exactly. And I guess the mistrust is real. We have to earn every little bit of credibility with our customers. It was awesome because we still have like this survey with them, and we ask them how they feel when they were approved their credit card, their Vexi credit card. And remember that for most of them is their first credit card. So they say many wonderful things. I remember this one, like, he feels like he graduated as an adult because
Wow.
someone trusted on them. So we're giving them trust, and they are giving trust us back. And it's not just that we are solving the issue for the user. Most of the times it's for the user, their friends, their family, and that's how we win.
Yeah, I mean, and imagine, not to put all of this weight on you guys as a company, but I can imagine a world, in Mexico 10 years, 20 years, 50 years from now, where maybe someone is doing a podcast and they're not aware that there's a cultural distrust about money and institutions anymore, because maybe there is less of a cultural distrust because more people have come in the Vexi way. And
Exactly.
then that has enabled them to eventually have their friends and their family members also slightly trusted a little bit more. Frankly, big banks and other competitors 20 years from now will benefit from the work that you're doing in the community today.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's our dream for sure.
That's good. That's amazing. Okay, so let's do this. Let's talk about the Vexi business story, right? So tell us the startup story. This is kind of your commercial, right? So talk to us about exactly what the company is, who it serves, what it offers, and then let's talk about kind of some milestones, and I'll ask you a couple follow-up questions.
Yeah, the personal, we wanted to really give access to a larger portion of the population, and to really allow them to begin building credit. That's why we were built, and we say that we serve the emerging middle class in Mexico, and that Vexi is this credit card that we wish our family had when we were growing up. And that's the story of all of our families, that they lack credit when we were young, especially, Cynthia always shares a story. Her mother was a single mom. So, in her 20s, and bringing her and really educating her was not easy, and there was no credit for her. And for Cynthia was a completely different story. So, I guess that's what we do. That's our purpose. That's our mission, to really give access to a larger portion of the population. We're doing so through a first-time credit card experience. Our credit card, it's a American Express branded credit card. So that's a huge differential in the market.
Interesting. I saw that in the research as I was preparing for this. Tell us more about that.
So imagine in American Express, it's a little bit different in Mexico than in US, because over here in Mexico, the American Express credit card has been always like for the rich people. The thing that people doesn't get, it's all credit cards were for especially rich people, but for them it's truly aspirational. And American Express in Mexico has built the largest network of what we call in Spanish meses sin intereses, which is some sort of buy now, pay later embedded in the credit card. American Express has the largest network of merchants offering those sort of promotions to their customers. So imagine the life of one of our customers. A year ago, they didn't have access to credit. And right now they have a American Express, Vexi American Express branded card, and they have access to the largest buy now pay later network. So they can go and buy their fridge in any retail store at 6-month installments with no interest. That's a whole game changer for this segment of population. So I guess that's why we do how we do it. We built our own technology, as I told you. So that's one of our largest differentiators. Salvador and Gustavo, which are our technical partners, they built everything from scratch. So the payment processors, the core banking system, obviously the credit scoring, and all the systems that we use both for serving, collecting, and fraud prevention and everything were built in-house. So they are specially designed for serving this segment. And that's the whole differential. We have like the best loan book, even though we're serving a segment that's normally considered much more subprime. Nevertheless, we have like the best loan book in credit cards in Mexico. We have the best unit economics. We are already profitable, at the contrary of many of other fintechs in the space. So we have like a really unique position right now in the space to scale it. Our investors tell us like, you already nailed it, so go and scale it.
Like, I mean, essentially, I mean, this is like the classic definition of you're doing immense good while doing it very well. Like you're doing great good while doing great business.
Exactly. And that's because we knew that for making this sustainable, it has to be profitable. Otherwise, it will be like a very small impact, the one that we could have in the
just
country.
to give us some chronological context. So what year did the company start?
We began operations in 2018, so we've been around for a while now. We already went through the pandemic, serving this subprime segment. Everyone was really scared. I guess I was terrified in March 2020, because I have spent the previous months speaking to investors and telling them that our customer base was not as riskier as they were considering them, and that was like the time to prove it. And our customer base proved it. So I guess during the pandemic, we had the best cohorts in terms of risk at any fintech. Our portfolio was super resilient. It was kind of contracyclical. That was the year that we signed our first structured credit line, that we signed up with more institutional investors. So it was a game changer for us, 2020. First on the not so good side, then on the good side. Actually, we were born issuing only the Vexi Carnet card. Carnet is like a Mexican MasterCard, so it's only accepted locally. Then in 2020, we launched the Vexi American Express card as well. So that was obviously another huge milestone for the company. Now the Vexi American Express card is like our main product. And since we have been growing, getting to profitability, improving our unit economics, and acquiring and expanding to a larger customer base.
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Chisos Capital. Everyone knows that raising capital is hard. And frankly, finding the next pool of entrepreneurs to get access to as limited investors is sometimes impossible too. Do you have a big idea, a dream you're building, but you're struggling to find early funding? Well, Chisos is changing the game for founders, creators, athletes, and investors. Whether you're launching a startup, growing your creative brand, or training for the big leagues, Chisos backs you. Chisos uniquely invests up to $100,000 in people, not just products, whether they be entrepreneurs, creators, or even athletes. With their unique CISA model, convertible income share agreements, Founders get flexible funding without giving up equity or ownership, and investors get attractive returns and great upside with less risk. Chisos works for both investors and the people bringing our world to life. If you're seeking access to a truly diverse pool of deals, or you're someone who feels overlooked by the VC game, Chisos is ready to back you. So apply now at chisos.io.
I have to imagine that American Express would not make such a strategic relationship with you if they did not deeply understand the metrics of your business and the model and how successful you were at it. Am I correct to assume that?
I guess that's correct. And also the credibility of us as founders, because we already have a very proof trajectory in our careers when we founded Vexi, and that we were able to build all the technology that was required for us to connect directly with them. So I guess we are right now the only ones that are issuing a non-banking credit card in Mexico under the American Express brand, and they are super partners. We are super happy working with them. We hope to continue working with them for many more years and expanding our relationship.
Let's talk about that if you can. And obviously, I realize you're a private small company. There's a lot of stuff you can't talk about. That's totally okay. But if you can, paint us a picture, right? So it's been growing, obviously, steadily from day one to now. You have more users than you had before. I get that, right? But paint a picture of what does growth look like, either in the context of users or in the context of geographic reach or something. Say, next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years? What does it look like going forward?
For us is we have now approved more than 1 million credit cards in the country, and we have financed more than $250 million in transactions for our customers. Obviously, we want to continue growing. So in the next 2 years, if everything goes according to plan, that we firmly believe that is going to be that way, our plan is to grow at least 5 times the growth that we have currently, reach a larger portion of the population here in Mexico, and start expanding to lateral products. We have done the most difficult thing, which is gaining the trust of our customers, granting them their first credit card. That's the most difficult, credit first. But we know they have many other financial needs. In average, they are 28 years old. 50% of them, it's single. That statistic always, impressed me. So things are gonna change in their lives in the next few years. Either they are gonna get married, they are gonna have kids, many of them, and their financial life is gonna change as well. And they are gonna have many different needs. And us having already gained their trust, we are in the best position to continue expanding and helping them to solve all their financial needs that they are going to have in the next few years. So we want to acquire a different legal vehicle here in Mexico to be able to launch investments, remittances, payroll, and many other services. 50% of our customers, this is another very important statistic. 50% of our customers are micro entrepreneurs themselves. So we are really going after the most important segment, productive segment of our country, and we want to be there for them. And we are now launching a different set of credit especially designed for that segment, because they are using their credit card for growing their business, and that's not the best use of a credit card. So personal loans for them to facing important phases of their business, that's the one that we are rolling out right now. But for sure, they are going to have a small payroll needs. They are going to have payment needs. They are going to have collection needs. So we want to be there for them. That's how we foresee Vexi.
Is it even I could be using totally wrong terminology because you're the expert, not me. Is it appropriate then to say essentially Vexi, and this is probably wrong, but Vexi becomes a full service bank, or is the phrase now is something different?
I guess we are always saying we want to become the one-stop shop for financial services. We don't want to incorporate the bank yet into
fair
our
enough.
vision.
Because that's more of like a legal regulatory
Yes.
designator. Okay. And
Yes.
like American Express as one example, like in the United States,
Exactly.
like American Express was not a bank, it was a credit finance company, right? So
We want to continue in that path, but really becoming the one-stop shop for all their financial needs for the
yeah,
emerging middle class.
yeah, that's amazing. And I love I being the entrepreneurial guy, right? I love the whole aspect of what large a percentage of your users are these small entrepreneurs, pymes, as they would say in Mexico, right?
Micro payment. Uh-huh.
That are growing businesses, and you can already prove like they're using. You have the data to show that they're using the product you've already provided them with, and so that's like, hey, give us more products, and we'll have more loyalty to
Exactly.
you. It's incredible, and it was something I was going to ask you. We kind of skipped over it, but you've just made the case. You've answered it. Like you're unlocking such a significant economic portion. Like you're enabling so much economic activity to happen inside the Mexican economy that frankly otherwise would not be happening. I mean, so this isn't a matter of like we're moving money from here to here and it already existed, Rob. And like this is saying to people who had no credit, access to credit, had no access to money in that sense, like you've empowered them with their first, and they have gone out and they've stimulated the economy by spending or purchasing products for their businesses or purchasing products for themselves. Refrigerator was the example you gave, right? Like $250 million US of, I mean, like it's a huge, it's a small but huge number at the same time.
Yes, and I guess that's the energy or the gasoline that truly give us like to continue moving forward. We measure lots of the impact sides that our business is doing on our customer base, and knowing that they have now much more financial resilience because they can face emergencies like during the pandemic. That's something that they were not able unless going through predatory loans. And we already speak about
Yeah.
how predatory loans are super bad for them. So how they could stop using predatory loans, how they could face emergencies, how they are using their card for stimulating their own income and the economy as a whole, because they are using the card for growing their business. So knowing all that and really having like these cases from people that call us and tell us like, thank you, because I had this emergency and I have to buy these medicines and I didn't have any cash on me until the next week, my payday, but I could do it because I had the Vexi card, or because there's one that I love. If you lived already in Mexico, you knew for sure the wrestling, all this wrestling industry or yeah, that we have in Mexico City,
Yeah.
especially,
Yeah.
the lucha libre. And we have a customer that he manufactures the masks for the wrestler. So, he used the card to buy the inventory
Materials.
for, the materials for him to continue. So how he has grown his business on something that it's truly one of the most Mexican stuff that we have worldwide. Even though it was one micro entrepreneur, for us, it's super significant,
That's awesome.
So it's
That guy's
awesome.
someday when you do a TV commercial, that guy's got to be in your TV
Oh,
commercial.
for sure,
Right?
sure.
Like that is
Yeah,
100% the story that you're
yeah,
using.
exactly.
That is incredible. You mentioned that your investors many of them have gotten to the point now where they're like, you nailed it, now go scale it. But we also know, you've met lots of them. Hopefully you haven't taken money from too many of them, but right, lots of investors, lots of venture capital investors, especially newer ones in Mexico or in Latin America, less mature, right? They're in a hurry. I mean, yes, they say they have a long time frames, but their long time frame is like 5, 6, 8 years, right? And then they want like crazy, crazy returns. How have you navigated that relationship? Have you just stuck to just only taking money from the really smart people that you could tell they had a really long horizon, or how do you help them to manage their own expectations about, because you're talking about like a 25-year solution here.
I guess for us, we have been amazingly and really lucky to find investors that the most important thing that we have in common with them is that we have shared values. So actually, we are the ones that sometimes we are so super eager that we should be growing faster than this, and we should risk a little bit of our profitability to go and chase this other. And they are the ones that keep telling us like, hey, remember your mission. Remember, this is your career. This is not the other startup's career. This is Vexi's career, and Vexi's career has a pace. So don't try to move or don't try to run through other paces that difference from you. So, and most of them has this impact side, thesis on their fund. So they super support what we are doing in terms of impact. That's one of the most important things. They report to their own shareholders. So I guess share values, that has been the game changer in the amazing thing that we have found in our investors.
Good for you. Congratulations. It's not always the story. So it's like, again, lucky, good, thoughtful, like all those things mix up to become the perfect scenario, and you've got it, which is terrific.
So far,
I'm curious.
so good.
I'm curious. And again, if it's too private, you don't have to answer. To scale it now, to grow, to do this next, but will you need to raise more capital from the outside to do that?
Yes, we're already profitable and we can continue bootstrapping our way. But as I was telling you, it will limit the speed of our growth. And that's something that we believe it's not fair, not with Vexi, not with Vexicans, and not even with the rest of the customers that we're gonna find in the next few months and years. Because the fastest we found them, the faster that we can turn them into a financial included individual in the system. So for us, accelerating our growth, that's the reason we are currently fundraising. Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
That makes sense. I'm curious. This is a little bit more, a couple of personal questions for you, right? So what did corporate city Banamex Gabriela have to unlearn and kind of leave behind to become startup Gabby?
I guess half of my mind has to be swept away. Yeah.
Literally half of your first name had to go from Gabriela to Gabby.
Exactly. That was the first thing. No, I guess, it's quite different to be part of a large corporation in which, your responsibility, it's a little piece of the whole, machinery. So, and there's a lot of, bureaucracy and there's some sort of politics involved. And I guess, I was really good at that game, but, as I told most of my bosses at the time, this is not my game. So I'm really good at it, but it is not mine. So it is yours. And that's amazing. But I really want to go further than that. So I really want to live and feel the impact of all my, energy, my passion, my talent, and everything. I want to crystallize and see it much more tangible. So when I decided to be an entrepreneur myself, I guess I didn't know what I was signing for, really, because
we never do.
Maybe if I knew it in advance, I have done the things really, really different, because now it's not just this piece of the machinery you are responsible for. You are responsible for 360, and you don't have the resources that you have, when you are in a large corporation, that, you have like the compliance, the legal, the operations, the whatever team, and you just have to decide about this small portion. As an entrepreneur, you are responsible 360. You need to act fast. You cannot plan that much ahead. You need to be, resilient to many no's that are gonna come, like, and you need to understand that it's gonna be like this mountain, like
roller coaster.
the roller coaster on daily basis. So the morning can be awesome, and then the noon can be like more or less, and then the afternoon again it's awesome. So the amount of things that you have to resolve yourself without going to different people, and the amount of decisions that you need to take, and you need to take them fast, it's whole different than the entrepreneurial. I was telling the other day in a panel, like, I had to understand that I had to make my own PowerPoints, that I have to make my own contracts, that I have to go and do many things that I was not doing that. I guess now I never wanted to be a lawyer, but now I have studied half of their major now for reading so many stuff and having to understand lots of corporate law and commercial law and everything. So I guess you have to learn about many things, but you cannot become a specialist on anyone. That's where your business starts to grow. That's the time to bring in a specialist in talent into the company and start to let go again.
Right.
You know?
And interesting timing too, right? Because you started, I mean, first of all, it's rare nowadays to meet companies that started pre-pandemic, right? But the fact that you started pre-pandemic, 2018-ish, I mean, 17, 18, like that was pre-AI too, right? So, so you couldn't just say, hey, AI, build me my PowerPoint, right? You could.
Exactly. That was, and it's really funny because, I guess that, whenever my ex-bosses from my, beginning of my career now think about me in a FinTech world, in a technological world, knowing that they had to force me to buy my first iPad. So that was like, the less technological, person in the room. That used to be me. And now it's all about tools and you know, and AI all over the place, and really changing and innovating every day.
That's funny. That's the great irony of your career story, right?
Yeah.
I love that.
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Plaintext Capital. You know, investing in Web3 and cryptocurrencies isn't about jumping on the latest trends. It's about understanding where the market is headed and why. Plaintext Capital is a digital asset investment firm focused on long-term strategies backed by deep research, backing the best Web3 companies and protocols, and investing in the newest asset classes of the future. They believe that Web3 crypto will drive digital innovation for decades to come, creating significant value for investors. In fact, their team of highly skilled professionals work with institutions and serious individual investors who want clarity in a space full of hype and noise. So if you're looking to cut through the chaos and invest with purpose, Plaintext Capital brings a disciplined, high-conviction approach to investing. You can learn more and meet the team at plaintextcapital.com.
I had a couple questions and you kind of just teased them a little bit unintentionally, right? Is the banking and credit finance industry in Latin America male dominated? Is it like mostly men everywhere?
No. I guess it used to. I guess things are changing a little bit. 20 years ago, when I was still at Banamex, and 10 years ago when I was still there, I guess I used to be barely the only woman on the table, and not just the only woman, but the only woman and the youngest person on the table. So that was hard, but it gave me lots of skills, survival skills maybe, and it teach me lots of lessons, and I guess that's pushed me for what was going to come, because on the FinTech founder industry, we women, we are really rare, even more rare than being a managing director on the banking system.
So the banking system over time grew to become a little bit more female/male ratio. but then you come over to the new
And it
entrepreneurial
was,
side, and it's like no women in FinTech,
no, there's a lot of women in FinTech.
but
And
not
that's
at the
changing a lot. Not founders enough, I guess.
not at the leadership level.
Yeah, that's something that needs to change. And I guess it's changing a little by little. It's part of the risk appetite that us women have, no? And
Yeah.
being an entrepreneur, it's a riskier business than being a corporate employee. So I guess that's something that we have to overcome, and we are overcoming. There's a huge community of amazing female fintech leaders now. When we were launching Vexi, we were like 5 or something like that. So now in my WhatsApps, we're hundreds of them, and that's amazing. And that has happened as well in the financial industry as a whole, and that's amazing. And I'm seeing like many crystal ceilings are being broken every day, and I know that I'm like putting my grain of salt in the equation, and that's amazing.
I love that. Congratulations. And you're leading again. You're leading by example. So that's the best way. I'm curious, right? We talked about how your old coworkers and bosses would look at you and say, like, I can't believe she became the technology founder.
Yeah.
I've got a different angle on the thinking about the old industry versus the new industry. So when you're out there competing, essentially, I mean, again, you're not competing because they're not offering these types of products and services, but you are challenging the industry, right? I mean, when you're on panels or at events or when you're in public, even just your existence as a company and those types of numbers are challenging the traditional finance industry. Do you get a lot of pushback? One, do you get a lot of pushback just because you're challenging the industry? And two, do you get pushback because you're a woman that's challenging the industry?
I guess it's no. I guess something that I expect the banks in Mexico will understand sooner than later. It's that we can be partners more than competition. And I guess right now, what I see and what I feel, it's a personal opinion. It's that they don't think the non-banks or the fintechs are in any way challenging what they've been doing for the last decades.
Okay.
So when they wake up, it's gonna be a hard wake up. So for now, it's like fun for them to look what's going on, but they don't really think we are gonna survive or we're gonna thrive. That's on one side. I guess some of them are looking in ways to partner with fintechs. The most open of the managers in or the leaders in the banking industry are open to partner with to fintechs more on the software side or on the on the tools and technology side than really on how to serve a larger portion of the population. But I guess we could partner and the partnership could be awesome because they have the resources that we lack, but we have the customer journey, the technology that they don't. Sure. And the agility that they don't. So it could be a super amazing partnership if they really were looking to do it. And as for being a woman, no, I don't think so. I guess things are changing a lot.
That's great.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, awesome. that's great news inside of fintech and inside of just the machismo Mexican culture, business culture, especially.
Yeah. And for me, it's amazing. I guess more than ever, every day I receive notice like this new woman, it's the new CEO of any AT&T or Tesla or whatever other big companies in Mexico. We're looking to that every day, and that's changing the business environment.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. One kind of last big question, right? We've talked so much about it, and frankly, some of your answers are so thoughtful that you answered some questions that I didn't even have to ask. I mean, it's obvious we're making a huge economic impact. It's obvious that we're unlocking like a huge portion of economic capability in a part of the society, frankly, the largest part of the society, that if you just continue on this trajectory, I mean, the Mexican government for all that they do to try and encourage and support economic development. They should be running around behind Vexi every day with a flag, like going, "Go Vexi," right? I mean, so you're fundamentally doing incredibly good work, while, as you said, most importantly to your investors, to your shareholders, and for the future of the market, like you're doing it incredibly well. Like you're just doing it really efficiently. So kudos for that. I mean,
Thank you.
that's the definition of entrepreneurial thinking, right? Is, as I say in the intro of the show, and as I say in kind of the thesis behind the show, my curiosity is mostly around people who are attacking the biggest problems and the biggest opportunities that we have in our societies, and are attacking them in different ways, right? And ultimately, that's you and your partners, your whole team are doing exactly that, and that's incredible. And that it tends to make me believe that even when you were inside of corporate, right, you had a strand inside your DNA that was a bit of an entrepreneurial thinker, right, and an innovator maybe, and that's awesome to see. So with all that said, let's close out with kind of one last kind of actionable question for our listeners, so that maybe they can take a couple of lessons away from you. If we had to come up with a short list of let's just say, like, what would three keys, so maybe three key suggestions to anyone that wants to build, and it doesn't have to be fintech, it could be anything, right? But anyone that wants to build kind of a modern day startup slash early stage company that can be both profitable and capital efficient. Like, what are three? There's probably 100 keys to this, but like, if you could boil it down to two or three or four, what would they be?
It's a really good question. I guess the first thing is you need to be obsessed with the problem and really find a way, which is the best way to solve it. Not obsessed with the product, but with the problem. I guess that's the first thing. Then the second thing, and this is where some of my partners will hate me, it's you need to be obsessed with unit economics.
Okay.
Since the beginning of the business. It will make you a little bit slow at the beginning, but on the long run, you're gonna thank yourself for thinking of that beforehand, because before scaling, that's super important to really understand the economics of the business you're building and really have like the keys of what are the pulls that you have, the levers that you have to continue expanding your business if something doesn't really go as planned. So obsessed with the problem and your customers, I will say, because it is part of, you're gonna just isolate the problem without thinking about the customer, and obsessed with unit economics. And the third one, I guess, will be like really find the right partners for whatever you are doing. I cannot imagine building Vexi without my co-founders, without any of them. They have pulled and they have been structural to everything that we have built. And it has not been easy because we have been married for 7 years now, 5 of us. So it's not been easy, to navigate, all the different decisions that we have been taking all across the time. But finding the right partners and then finding the right investors, which are your partners at the end of the day, the ones that are gonna challenge you, the ones that are gonna support you, the ones that are gonna calm you when you need to be calm. So I guess those three for me will be like the most medular things if you want to build a sustainable long-term business in any industry, especially in fintech, but in any other vertical.
You just gave the best business startup class in 3 minutes ever. Right.
Thank you.
That is, I mean, like, obsession with the problem and the people behind it, not the product, right? Obsession with unit economics from day one, from as early as you possibly can. And then obsession with your partners, and partners being the partners that you start the business with, but then also the investment partners. And then I'll stretch it and add even like your brand partners, like your American Express, your strategic partners, right? I mean, that's
Everyone.
Absolutely. That is the best. Everybody can skip the incubators and the accelerators now. We just went to Gabby Startup School. That's
No,
that's terrific.
oh, thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
This was a great joy. People listening to it later will never know we had a little bit of a technical glitch at the start, but we bounced back and we had it. And this is a wonderful conversation. I was deeply curious just about Vexi and about how you were really actually doing something that everybody in the industry says they're always doing, even though I know very few of them ever do it. So I was very naturally curious as we entered this conversation to hear how it is that you all have brought your own experiences and your perspectives to actually just executing on the mission that everybody loves to hype and market and say that they're trying to execute on, but very, very few do. So thank you for sharing your story, for sharing the stories of a couple of your users. We're always going to remember the Lucha Libre guy who's making the mat, like he's going to be in your TV commercial someday.
Hopefully.
Right. I mean, I wish the best to you and your team and your partners. And in that sense, how can users or how can investors or how can friends, like people that want to follow you, connect with you guys, how can they find you? Where can they find you? Websites, social media, email? Give us those details.
So our webpage is Vexi.mx. So
Okay.
it's really easy. And then most of our social media, like Instagram or Facebook or even Twitter, is at VexiMX. So that's super easy to find
Awesome.
us. In LinkedIn, I guess, is Tarjeta Vexi, if my memory is right, but I'll send you that one.
Yep.
And we are all in LinkedIn. So
Awesome.
if anyone wants to get in touch with us, LinkedIn, I guess, is the best. It's the best
Terrific.
way.
And if any investors are listening who want to get in on this round and want to be a part of the future of Vexi, you can connect through me if you need to, and we'll get an introduction to Gabriela right away.
That will be amazing.
Gabby, this is awesome.
Thank you, Rob, for the conversation, for listening, for your thoughtful questions, and for your amazing energy. That's
my pleasure. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your evening.
You too.